Moscow, March 1930. 3 in the morning. A sound rolls across the city. Low, resonant. Not quite music, not quite noise. 112 hertz. Felt more than heard. Windows vibrate. Water in glasses ripples. Dogs howl. The bells of Kremlin Cathedral. Ringing for the last time. By dawn, scaffolding surrounds the tower. Workers arrive with cutting torches. Orders signed personally by Stalin. The bells must be removed, melted, destroyed, not sold, not stored, destroyed. Within 72 hours, the bronze will be liquid, poured into molds for factory machinery. The frequency silenced. This happened to 17,000 churches across the Soviet Union between 1929 and 1939. Every bell removed, every tower stripped. Official reason: atheist campaign. Religious objects repurposed for industrial production. But the orders contain unusual specificity. Not just any bells. Bells cast before 1800. Bells above certain weight, certain dimensions. Bells producing frequencies between 100 and 130 hertz. Stalin didn't just want churches closed. He wanted specific acoustic objects destroyed. This is the story of what those bells were doing, and why one frequency made the Soviet state afraid. Leningrad, January 1929. A metallurgist receives unusual assignment. Survey all church bells in the city. Document specifications, weight, diameter, thickness, composition, standard inventory for confiscation. But the forms include additional fields: resonant frequency, harmonic overtones, acoustic range. Why does the state need acoustic measurements of bells they plan to melt? He begins at Alexander Nevsky Lavra. 5 bells in the main tower. Largest, 18 tons. Cast 1709. He strikes it once with wooden mallet. Records the tone. 112 hertz. Pure. Sustained. The vibration continues for 47 seconds after the strike. He measures again. Same result. At 3 meters distance, 112 hertz. At 30 meters, 112 hertz. At 300 meters, measurable vibration. Still 112 hertz. The bell projects a single frequency across vast distances. He documents this. Moves to the next church, Kazan Cathedral. 4 bells, largest, 12 tons. Cast 1733. Strike. Measure. 109 hertz. Sustained. 41 seconds. Measurable range, 250 meters. Church of the Savior on spilled blood. 7 bells. Largest, 22 tons. Cast 1698. Strike. Measure. 115 hertz. Sustained. 53 seconds. Measurable range. 400 meters. Pattern emerges. Bells cast before 1750. Frequencies between 105 and 120 hertz. Bells cast after 1800. Frequencies scattered. 30 to 300 hertz. Only old bells produce consistent low frequencies, with extreme sustain. The metallurgist notes this in his report. 3 weeks later, priority confiscation list arrives. Every bell on his survey producing frequencies between 100 and 130 hertz. Immediate removal. Bells outside that range. Secondary priority. The state wants specific frequencies, silenced first. Berlin, December 1928. Soviet trade delegation meets with German acoustics researchers. Institute for Sound Research. Closed session. No official record exists, but a laboratory assistant's diary entry, discovered 1997. Russians asking about biological effects of sustained low frequencies. Showed them our cymatics experiments. They took extensive notes. Asked specifically about 100 to 130 hertz range. Wanted to know effects on human tissue, on cellular structures, on consciousness. They described large bronze bells, old ones. Asked if such objects could produce measurable biological effects at distance. Dr. Schneider said yes. Showed them the resonance plates, how specific frequencies organize matter into geometric patterns. The Russians became very quiet, asked if the effect works on living tissue. Dr. Schneider said preliminary evidence suggests yes, at cellular level, particularly in water-rich environments. Human body, 70% water. The Russians asked for copies of all research, paid in gold, left immediately. One of them said, "We must know what these bells are doing to people." 3 months later, Stalin's bell confiscation program begins. Target: bells producing 100 to 130 hertz. Kiev, April 1930. Destruction of Mikhailovsky Cathedral, 800 years old. 5 bells in the tower. Largest, 16 tons. Cast 1387. Workers arrive with orders. Remove all bells. Transport to foundry. Melt immediately. But the head foreman, prior experience as church bell ringer, requests permission to sound the bells one final time. Traditional farewell. Permission denied. Orders specify: bells must not be rung before removal. Strict prohibition. Under penalty. Why? The workers begin cutting mounting brackets. Bells removed in silence. But one worker, 19 years old, finds small bell in alcove. 20 kilograms. Missed by inventory. He strikes it once with wrench. Clear tone. High. Approximately 350 hertz. Nothing unusual happens. He strikes it again. Harder. The foreman rushes over. Furious. "Not that one, you fool." Points to the large bell. That's the one they don't want heard. The young worker asks why. The foreman: "Ring that bell. People start acting strange. Calm. Too calm. Like they're not afraid anymore." He pauses. "State can't have people not afraid." The bells are removed without being sounded. Later, the young worker asks local residents about the large bell. An old woman, age 73. Before revolution, that bell rang every morning, 5 a.m. Everyone woke up feeling different, clear-headed, peaceful, even during bad times. "We called it the thinking bell. Made you think clearly." She pauses. "They took our thinking bell away." The bell is melted 3 days later. State Archives, Moscow. Document 1929/47/B. Internal NKVD memo. Classified. Declassified 1991. Subject: acoustic subversion concerns. Text: analysis of pre-revolutionary bell systems reveals potential for population manipulation through sustained low-frequency acoustic exposure. Bells in question: cast 1400 to 1700. Concentrated in major population centers. Rung multiple times daily. Acoustic pattern: 100 to 130 hertz. Duration: 2 to 5 minutes per ringing. Daily exposure: 20 to 40 minutes. German research documents effects in this frequency range. Cellular resonance measured. Neurological pattern changes observed. Emotional regulation altered. Crowd behavior modified. Historical correlation: areas with daily bell exposure showed lower compliance with Tsarist authority. Higher rates of independent thought greater resistance to propaganda. Recommendation: immediate removal of all bells producing frequencies between 100 and 130 hertz. Destruction mandatory. No preservation for museums. Justification for public. Atheist campaign. Metal requisition for industrial production. Actual objective: elimination of acoustic resistance mechanisms. Signed: L. Beria. Approved: J. Stalin. Date: February 3, 1929. Bell confiscation begins 6 weeks later. Novgorod, August 1931. Church of the Transfiguration, 11 bells. Oldest, cast 1264. Before removal, a medical researcher, secretly opposed to the regime, conducts unauthorized measurements. He positions himself near the bell during final authorized ringing. Measures his own physiology. Baseline: heart rate 78 beats per minute. Blood pressure elevated. Stress response active. The bell rings. 108 Hz. After 30 seconds, heart rate decreases to 62. After 90 seconds, blood pressure normalizes. After 3 minutes, measurable decrease in cortisol levels. Stress response diminished. He feels calm, clear, alert but not anxious. The ringing stops. Within 10 minutes, physiology returns to baseline stress state. He repeats the measurement the next day. Same result. The bell induces measurable stress reduction, not through psychological comfort, through direct physiological effect. He documents this, hides the notes. The bell is removed 2 days later. His notes, discovered in his estate after his death in 1978, include a final entry. The old bells don't just make sound. They regulate human nervous systems. This is not superstition. This is measurable biology. Priority. Removal targets. Bells producing 100 to 130 Hz. Correlation documented. Mechanism measured. Causation unstated. The bells being destroyed shared specific characteristics, not just age. Construction method. Analysis of surviving fragments reveals unusual properties. Standard church bell, cast 1800 onward. Bronze alloy. 80% copper, 20% tin. Bells cast before 1700. Bronze alloy. But trace elements present. Silver, gold, small amounts. Ratios vary by bell. But pattern exists. The older bells contain precious metals in precise trace amounts. Why? Modern metallurgical analysis of pre-1700 bell fragments shows the trace elements affect acoustic properties. Pure bronze. Frequencies decay quickly. Harmonics muddy. Bronze with precise trace silver and gold. Frequencies sustain. Harmonics clarify. Specific frequencies amplify. The old bellcasters knew. They weren't decorating bells with precious metals. They were engineering acoustic instruments, capable of projecting specific frequencies across vast distances, for sustained duration, with biological effects. Historical records pre-revolutionary period, St. Petersburg Medical Journal, 1893. Article: Observed health patterns in bell tower proximity. Study of 3,000 residents living within 500 meters of major churches, compared to 3,000 residents living beyond acoustic range. Results: bell proximate population, 23% lower incidence of anxiety disorders, 18% lower rates of insomnia, 16% lower cardiovascular disease. The researchers noted, correlation strongest for residents near churches with bells cast before 1700. Churches with modern bells, no significant health difference. The study concluded, unknown mechanism associated with older bell acoustic properties appears to confer health benefits through regular exposure. The study was published once, never cited again. After revolution, journal archived. Article unavailable until digitization 2009. Pattern extends beyond Soviet Union. France, 1931 to 1940. Systematic removal of church bells. Official reason: metal requisition for war preparation. But war doesn't start until 1939. Bells removed 9 years early. Which bells? Survey of removal records. Prioritization matches Soviet pattern. Bells cast before 1700. Immediate removal. Modern bells. Lower priority. Germany, 1933 to 1945. Nazi bell confiscation. Official reason: bronze needed for weapons. But again, specific targeting. Bells producing frequencies between 100 and 120 Hertz. Priority removal. Bells outside that range, many left in place. Italy, 1936 to 1943. Fascist bell confiscation. Same pattern. Old bells. Specific frequencies. Priority destruction. Spain, 1936 to 1939. Both sides of civil war. Systematic bell destruction. Republicans and nationalists, fighting each other, both destroying the same bells. Old bells, low frequencies, gone. Multiple authoritarian regimes, different ideologies, same target. Bells producing 100 to 130 hertz, all between 1929 and 1945, 16 years. Coordinated, International Conference on Cultural Heritage, Geneva, 1927. 2 years before Stalin's bell program begins. Attendance records list delegates from Soviet Union, Germany, Italy, France, Spain. Meeting topics: preservation of historical artifacts, management of religious properties, acoustic properties of architectural elements. Final topic: unusual for Heritage Conference. Session minutes, unavailable. Listed as administrative discussions, not recorded. But a French delegate's personal notes, discovered in Family Papers, 1998. Discussion of bells turned technical. Soviet delegate presented research on frequency effects. Biological section psychs. Claimed old bells produce frequencies that reduce population compliance with authority. Showed German research, cymatics, cellular resonance. Argued states requiring population control must eliminate these acoustic sources. German delegate agreed. Italian delegate agreed. Spanish delegate took notes. French delegation skeptical but listened. Soviet delegate: these objects are not religious artifacts. They are acoustic weapons against state power. They make populations think independently. Everyone left quietly. Within 2 years, bell destructions began across all represented nations. The notes include a final observation. Discussion topics: bell frequencies. Biological effects documented. Population behavioral correlations observed. All nations represented. Implemented identical removal programs. Same frequency targets. Same time frame. Same procedures. Moscow Institute of Acoustics, 1934. Classified Research Program. Project Resonance. Surviving documentation, declassified 2012, reveals objectives. Study biological effects of sustained low-frequency exposure. Determine if acoustic frequencies can modify human behavior. Develop countermeasures to unwanted acoustic influence. The research used bell recordings. Specifically, bells confiscated from churches. Frequency range studied, 100 to 130 hertz. Test subjects, prisoners. Volunteers from labor camps. Experiments ran for 3 years. Results section of final report, redacted. Conclusions section, partially legible. Sustained exposure to frequencies in target range produces measurable changes in subject compliance, emotional regulation, and resistance to authoritative instruction. Effect most pronounced at 112 Hz. Exposure duration. Optimal at 3 to 5 minutes. Multiple daily exposures compound effect. Historical bell ringing patterns. Morning, noon, evening, each 2 to 4 minutes. This pattern maximizes biological effect. Recommendation: ensure complete destruction of all acoustic sources capable of producing target frequencies at population scale. Bell destruction program achieving objectives. Continue until completion. Signed, Director, Acoustics Research Division. Date: October 19, 1937. 8 years into bell destruction program. Research confirms the bells were producing measurable effects on human behavior. Effects the state considered threatening. Oral testimony. Recorded, 1994. Former Soviet citizen, age 83. I was 12 when they took the bells from our church. 1930. Before that, the bells rang every morning. 6 a.m. Beautiful sound. Low. Made your chest vibrate. Everyone in the village would stop, just for a moment. Listen. When the sound stopped, people would go about their day. But different. Calmer. Kinder to each other. My grandmother said the bells tuned people. made us remember we're human. After they took the bells, the village changed. More fights, more fear. People stopped talking to each other. Everyone suspicious. My grandmother said, "They took the tuning away. Now we're just noise." Another testimony, recorded 2001. Former church worker, age 76. I was apprenticed to the bell ringer, 1928, just before they took everything. The master taught me the patterns. Not just when to ring, how to ring. Different occasions, different patterns, but always the same frequencies. The old bells, you couldn't ring them wrong. They found their note. The master said, "These bells are older than the church, older than memory. We don't know who made them, but they knew what they were doing." He showed me records. Bell cast 1324. Still ringing perfect. 600 years. Same tone. Master said the bells don't age like metal should. Something in them keeps them true. When the soldiers came, Master refused to help remove the bells. They arrested him. I never saw him again. Before they took him, he said, "They're afraid of what the bells do. Not to God, to people. Free people don't need masters." Third testimony, recorded 2007. Former Soviet military officer, age 89. I was assigned to bell confiscation detail, 1932, Leningrad District. Our orders: remove bells quickly, don't let them ring, transport immediately to foundry. They told us the bells were counter-revolutionary, religious propaganda, but the prohibition against ringing them, that was about something else. One time, church in small village. Old priest refused to open tower. Said we'd have to kill him. Commander ordered me to shoot the lock. I did. We climbed to the tower. 5 bells. Huge. Ancient. Youngest soldier, he was curious. Struck one bell with his rifle butt. The sound, I can't describe it. Felt it in my bones, like my whole body was vibrating. Lasted maybe 30 seconds. When it stopped, everyone just stood there. 12 soldiers. Not moving. Not speaking. Then the youngest soldier started crying. Didn't know why. Commander snapped out of it. Screamed at us to move. Get the bells down. But something changed in that moment. For all of us. We'd been told these bells were evil, counter-revolutionary. But that sound, it was the most peaceful thing I'd ever felt. We took the bells anyway. Orders. But I never forgot. That wasn't evil we were destroying. That was something good. Something that made you feel human. That's what scared them. The testimonies share common themes. The bells produced physical sensations, chest vibrations, body resonance, emotional effects, calm, clarity, occasional tears, unexplained peace, social effects, communities more cohesive during bell exposure, more fragmented after removal. The bells weren't symbolic. They were functional, biological technology, disguised as religious objects. Surviving bells, very few escaped destruction. Those that did, hidden by villagers, buried, disguised, protected at great risk. St. Isaac's Cathedral, Leningrad. One bell survived. 31 tons. Cast 1684. Too large to move quickly. Workers told to leave it. Return later. They never returned. The bell remains. Silent. Soviet law, 1931. Ringing church bells prohibited. Punishable by imprisonment. The bell went unrung for 60 years. 1991. Soviet Union collapses. The bell is rung again. First time since 1929. Frequency measured 111 hertz. Journalists present describe the experience. Not like ordinary bell. Sound felt physical. Like low thunder. But pleasant. Made you want to stand still. Listen. Crowd of 200 people. Gathered for the ringing. After the sound stopped, everyone quiet. Nobody spoke for several minutes. Then someone said, "No, I forgot what that felt like." Someone else, "What?" "Peace. The bell is rung occasionally now. Special occasions only. Each time. Same description. Physical feeling. Sustained calm. Measurable effect on crowd behavior." Modern Research, University of Helsinki, 2016. Study: Biological effects of low-frequency acoustic resonance. Researchers expose subjects to sustained tones. 112 Hz. 5 minutes duration. Measurements before and after. Heart rate variability. Increases 23%. Cortisol levels. Decrease 19%. Alpha brainwave activity. Increases 31%. Self. Reported anxiety. Decreases 42%. Control group. Exposed to white noise. No changes. The researchers note, 112 Hz produces measurable biological effects. Not placebo. Not psychological. Direct physiological response. The effect resembles meditation, but passive. No training required. Just exposure to the frequency. Additional testing. Subjects exposed daily. 3 minutes per day, 30 days. Results: compound. By day 30. Baseline stress levels 47% lower than control group. Sleep quality. Improved 38%. Cognitive performance. Improved 26% on attention tasks. Immune markers. Improved 21%. The frequency produces cumulative biological benefits, exactly matching historical bell-ringing patterns. Daily, sustained, repeated. Study conclusion: sustained low-frequency acoustic resonance, particularly around 112 Hz, induces measurable states of neural coherence and autonomic regulation. Historical use of bells producing these frequencies may have served biological population health functions beyond religious or cultural purposes. The systematic removal of such acoustic sources in the 20th century may have contributed to population stress increases and reduced baseline neurological coherence. The study was published in a minor journal. Limited circulation, no major coverage. Lead researcher applies for grant to expand study. Test population scale effects. Grant denied. 3 times. Different funding agencies. Reasons given. Not priority research area. Limited practical applications. Methodological concerns. The methodological concerns, never specified. The researcher contacts colleagues internationally. Suggests collaboration. German acoustics lab, interested. Begins similar experiments. Within 6 months. Funding cut. Lab closed for restructuring. French neuroscience team starts preliminary tests. Equipment requisition denied. No explanation. British University proposes large-scale study. Ethics approval process stalled. 3 years. Still pending. Pattern emerges. Research into 112 Hz biological effects. Systematically hindered. Not forbidden. Just difficult. Funding unavailable. Permissions delayed. Equipment denied. Effective suppression. Without official suppression. The researcher publishes findings anyway. Open access journal. Small readership. No mainstream attention. But the data exists. 112 Hz works. Measurably. Repeatedly. Consistently. The old bells were not ceremonial. They were therapeutic. Population-scale biological intervention. Daily tuning of human nervous systems toward coherence. Modern authorities. Unwilling to allow this knowledge mainstream application. Why? Archives. Recently declassified. Moscow, 2019. NKVD reports. 1932. Incidents of non-compliance following bell removals. Leningrad. Riots at 3 churches during bell confiscation. Requires military intervention. Kiev. Workers refuse to cut down bell tower. Entire crew replaced. Novgorod. Population. Attempts to hide bells before confiscation teams arrive. 17 arrested. Moscow. Protests at Kremlin Cathedral bell removal. 43 detained. The resistance wasn't about religion. Report notes. Subjects frequently state they need the sound. Cannot articulate why. Describe feelings of loss, disorientation, increased anxiety after bell removal. Some subjects describe bells as keeping them human or helping them think clearly. Psychological dependence on acoustic effect suspected. Later report, 1934. Population anxiety levels elevated in areas with recent bell removal. Increased alcoholism. Increased domestic violence. Increased compliance with authoritarian directives. Effect noted. Populations without daily bell exposure more susceptible to propaganda. Less likely to question official narratives. Bell removal program achieving secondary psychological control objectives. The bells regulated populations toward calm, clear thinking. Removing them produced populations more controllable through fear and propaganda. This appears deliberate. But where did the old bells come from? Who cast them with such precision? Records from major bell foundries, 1700 onward. Standard bronze casting. No trace precious metals. Simpler acoustic properties. Records from before 1700. Sparse. But what exists shows different approach. Venice, 1647. Bell Casting Guild documents. Masters received formulas from predecessors, precise ratios, copper, tin, silver, gold. Proportions calculated for specific tones, not art, science, mathematics. Each bell designed to produce exact frequency, sustain specific duration, project particular distance. The formulas, passed master to master. Origin, unknown. Said to come from before memory. Masters guard knowledge carefully. Outsiders cannot learn. The knowledge was preserved, transmitted, protected. Through generations of bellcasters. Who knew? The bells weren't decoration. The bells were instruments, designed for specific biological effects. By whom? Earlier records provide clues. Nuremberg, 1592. Master Bellcaster's Journal. The old methods work. The new methods, inferior. We try pure bronze. Bells ring, but sound hollow. No sustain. No power. We try the old formula, the one from Eastern masters. Silver and gold in precise trace amounts. The bell rings true. Sustains. Projects. We ask the Eastern master, why these metals? He says, silver conducts divine breath. Gold holds eternal tone. Together with copper, they create sound that touches soul. We think this superstition. We test anyway. The frequencies measure different. Old formula, pure, sustained, focused. New formula, scattered, weak, brief. The Eastern master was right. Not superstition. Physics we don't understand. The Eastern masters appear repeatedly in foundry records. Traveling casters, teaching techniques, sharing formulas, always moving west, from territories labeled Tartaria on maps. Amsterdam, 1634. Guild records. Eastern caster demonstrates method. Preparation of molds differs from our practice. He insists on specific cooling rates, specific ambient conditions during casting. Says bell must be born under right stars, right temperature, right timing. We think this mysticism, but we follow instructions. The bell, exceptional, frequency pure, sustain unprecedented. We ask him to stay. Teach more. He says, the knowledge goes where it's needed. Your people must learn. Our people fade. He leaves. We never see him again. But the formulas he shared, still used by guild members. The Eastern casters possessed advanced metallurgical knowledge, understanding of acoustic properties centuries ahead of European science. They shared this knowledge, then disappeared. The records stopped mentioning them after early 1700s. The formulas remained. The bells continued being cast, using their methods, until the knowledge degraded. Simplifications introduced. Precision lost. By 1800, The old methods largely forgotten. Modern bell casting. Functional but inferior. Lost. The precise trace metal ratios. The timing. The astronomical considerations. Lost. The knowledge that bells were acoustic medicine. Population-scale therapeutic instruments. Rung daily. Multiple times. Specific frequencies. Maintaining population mental health through passive acoustic exposure. The Eastern masters, gone. The knowledge, fragmented. The bells they taught Europeans to make, still ringing, until Stalin ordered them destroyed. The bells, centuries old, cast 1200 to 1700, still producing exact frequencies. 112 hertz sustained. Biological effects, documented by Soviet researchers. Filed, classified. Targeting pattern, specific frequencies, specific weights. Bells cast before 1800. International coordination, 7 nations. Identical programs, same time frame. The bells were Tartarian technology, acoustic instruments, measurable biological effects, functioning for centuries, then systematically destroyed. Priority, bells producing 100 to 130 hertz. Systematic destruction, international coordination, not just Stalin. Everyone who understood what the bells did. The knowledge was already lost. The masters disappeared. But the instruments remained, still functioning, still producing 112 hertz, still tuning human consciousness toward clarity. That had to end. For authority to function, the bells had to be silenced. Earlier records reference Eastern techniques and Tartarian methods. British trade documents, 1723, describe copper imported from Tartarian territories. Copper of unusual quality, acoustic properties superior to European sources. Bellcasters prize it. French engineering journals, 1768. Tartarian bellcasting methods produce instruments of remarkable precision. Frequencies pure. Sustain exceptional. Biological effects documented. The bells being destroyed in the 20th century, linked to Tartarian metallurgical knowledge, knowledge of specific frequencies, and their effects on human consciousness. But not all bells were destroyed. Some were hidden successfully, buried in forests, sunk in lakes, walled into buildings, locations kept secret, protection spanning generations. Occasionally one is discovered. Ukraine, 2007. Construction crew excavating for building foundation, 4 meters below surface. Bell, 1,600 kilograms. Cast 1432. Carefully buried, wrapped in oiled cloth, preserved. The bell is recovered, cleaned, mounted temporarily for testing. Struck once, 109 hertz. Sustained, 43 seconds. Workers on site describe immediate physical sensation, vibration in chest, clarity of thought. Several workers begin crying, cannot explain why. Site supervisor, felt like something I'd been missing my whole life. Didn't know I missed it until I heard it. The bell is measured extensively. Contains trace silver, 0.008%. Trace gold, 0.003%. Modern metallurgists. These ratios are too precise to be accidental. This bell was engineered. The bell now resides in Regional Museum, rung once per year. Each ringing, crowds gather, describe the same experience. Peace, clarity, brief freedom from anxiety. The frequency still works. After 600 years. Another discovery. Romania, 2013. Forest workers clearing land for development. Metal detector signals. Excavation reveals 3 bells, buried together. Largest, 2,000 kilograms. Cast 1398. Forest floor disturbance suggests burial. 1930s. During period of Romanian bell confiscations, someone hid them, protected them at great risk. The bells are recovered. Tested. First bell, 107 hertz. Second bell, 112 hertz. Third bell, 116 Hz. All sustained over 40 seconds. All contained precise trace precious metals. Local historians investigate. Find oral tradition. Village elder, age 87. My grandfather told me, when soldiers came for the bells, villagers refused. Soldiers threatened violence. That night, strongest men from village took the bells, carried them into forest, buried them deep, marked the spot secretly, passed location down through families. My grandfather said, someday the fear will pass. Then we'll need the bells again, to remember how to be human. The bells were hidden for 73 years, still functional, still producing exact frequencies, still working as designed. Third discovery. Poland, 2019. Renovation of old manor house. Workers removing chimney discover. Bell, hidden in wall cavity. 700 kilograms. Cast 1512. Walled in during 1938, year before German invasion. Someone knew what was coming. Protected the bell. The bell is extracted, tested. 114 Hz. Sustained. 48 seconds. Owner of manor house, age 63. Family stories mention hiding something precious in the walls. During the war, we thought jewelry, paintings. But this is more valuable. My grandmother used to say, the old bells kept grandfather sane during occupation, just remembering their sound, knowing they still existed somewhere. She said the sound represented hope, freedom, clear thinking, things the occupiers tried to destroy, but couldn't, because the bell was hidden. The hidden bells share characteristics, all cast before 1700, all produce frequencies, 105 to 120 Hz, all contain trace precious metals in precise ratios, all buried or hidden during 1920s to 1940s, period of coordinated bell destruction, all still functional when recovered, centuries-old instruments, still performing exactly as designed. The people who hid them understood. These weren't antiques. These were tools. Tools for maintaining human consciousness in free state. Tools worth dying to protect. Worth hiding for generations. So someday, populations could hear them again. And remember what freedom sounds like. Questions remain. Stalin's orders specified destruction, not preservation. Why? Internal documents suggest fear of the frequency's effects. Populations exposed to 100 to 130 Hz, more resistant to authoritarian messaging, calmer, clearer thinking, less fearful. These are not qualities authoritarian regimes require. But, deeper question, who created this knowledge? Who discovered that specific frequencies produce specific biological effects? Who engineered bells to project these frequencies across entire cities? The knowledge predates modern acoustics by centuries, predates understanding of neurology, predates knowledge of cellular biology. Yet the bells work. Precisely. Measurably. As if designed by people who understood human biology, at levels modern science is only beginning to rediscover. The attribution, Tartarian. The maps showing Tartaria, systematically removed from history. The buildings with Tartarian architecture, copper removed, 1912. The bells with Tartarian engineering, destroyed, 1929 to 1945. 3 separate destructions, same source attribution, same time frame. Coordinated removal of technologies the modern world wasn't supposed to inherit. Today, few original bells remain. Perhaps 200 worldwide, from estimated 17,000 in Soviet territories alone. 99% destruction rate. Similar percentages across Europe. The frequency, silenced. But the effects documented. Research continues. Small scale, limited funding. Scientists who study this. Careers often stall. Funding difficult to secure. Publications rarely accepted by major journals. The topic remains marginal, yet the evidence accumulates. 112 Hz produces measurable biological effects. Old bells were designed to produce exactly this frequency. Stalin knew. Hitler knew. Mussolini knew. They coordinated removal, not for bronze, for silence. St. Petersburg. 2023. A researcher measures the surviving bell at St. Isaac's Cathedral. 111 Hz. Still exact. She stands 300 meters away. Measures vibration. Still detectable. She asks permission to ring the bell for extended duration. Scientific study. Permission denied. Cathedral authorities. Policy is occasional ringing only. Special occasions. She asks why. No clear answer. Just policy. She submits formal request. Include full research protocol. Institutional backing. Funding. Request denied. Reason given. Not appropriate use of historical artifact. She tries other bells. Other cities. Same response. The bells exist, but sustained research blocked. The frequencies protected from study. By whom? Modern authorities continuing the same suppression. Different regime. Same fear. Of what? A frequency. 112 Hz. That makes people calm. Clear. Unafraid. The old bells were destroyed. The knowledge scattered. The effects documented but marginalized. Yet the frequency remains, can be generated, tested, applied. Modern technology could reproduce what the bells did. Broadcast 112 Hz to populations. Continuous, low level. Research into population scale acoustic exposure. Consistently denied funding. Applications not pursued. The bells silenced 90 years ago. The frequency documented but restricted. Research suppression patterns. Helsinki study. Funding denied for expansion. German lab. Closed during similar research. French team. Equipment requisition denied. British University. Ethics approval stalled. 3 years. Different countries. Democratic governments. Same pattern. Soviet Union. Collapsed 1991. Nazi Germany. Defeated 1945. The suppression continues. Modern research hindered. Access restricted. Funding unavailable. Stalin's orders destroy them all. 17,000 bells. 99% destruction rate. Bells producing 112 Hz. Priority targets. 3 questions remain unanswered. Who designed the bells? The engineering is too precise for accident. The frequencies too exact. The biological effects too specific. Someone knew. Someone centuries ago understood human neurology, cellular biology, acoustic resonance at levels modern science is rediscovering. The attribution, Tartarian. But Tartaria was erased from maps, removed from history, dismissed as cartographic error. Yet Tartarian methods appear in architectural copper systems, bell acoustic engineering, trace metal ratios, frequency selection. Technologies that work, measurably, precisely, created by people we're told never existed. Second question, the coordination. Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, Nationalist Spain, Republican Spain, France. Different ideologies, opposed governments, fighting wars against each other, yet all destroying the same bells. Same time frame, same frequency targeting. Who coordinated this? Who convinced all these regimes that specific acoustic objects posed common threat? Geneva Conference, 1927. Attendance: all nations that later destroyed bells. Topic: acoustic properties of architectural elements. Minutes. Missing. What was discussed? What knowledge was shared? What decision was made? The destructions began 2 years later. Simultaneously, internationally, as if following agreed plan. Third question. Why the ongoing suppression? Soviet Union, collapsed 1991. Nazi Germany, defeated 1945. Fascist regimes, gone. Yet research into bell frequencies, still marginalized. Funding, still denied. Access, still restricted. The bells that survived, ringing limited. Study prevented by modern democratic governments. Why? What are they protecting? Not religious artifacts, not historical preservation. They're protecting silence, the absence of a frequency. 112 hertz, the frequency that makes humans think clearly. That makes populations unafraid. That makes people question authority. 90 years after Stalin's purge. The fear continues. Not fear of bells, fear of what happens when populations hear them. The bells were destroyed, the knowledge, scattered but not gone, the frequency, silent but documented, the effects, proven but ignored. Stalin feared a sound, not for superstitious reasons, for measured biological effects. Effects documented in NKVD reports, effects observed in populations. The bells of Tartarian rang for centuries, daily, sustained, precise, 112 hertz, multiple exposures, daily pattern, then silence, systematic, international, coordinated, 17,000 bells, gone. The frequency remains, in hidden bells, in buried instruments, in recorded measurements, in fragments, in data, in testimony. The bells are gone, but the frequency, documented. 112 hertz, 90 years of silence, 90 years of research suppression, funding denied, access restricted, study blocked, different regimes, same pattern. Soviet Union, collapsed. Nazi Germany, defeated. The suppression continues. Modern governments, democratic systems. Research into 112 hertz, still hindered. The bells, still restricted. After 90 years, human, thinking, unafraid. The bells, destroyed. The frequency, documented. 112 hertz, measurable, biological effects. Reduced anxiety, clear thinking, resistance to fear. 90 years of silence, 90 years of suppression. Not by populations, by authority. The evidence remains. The frequency remains. The question remains, when will populations hear it again?